Hey everyone, my name is Emily Bowles and I serve as the Director of Family Ministries at VHUMC. In regards to all that is happening in our world right now, we want to reach out to our families in any way that can assist them in this time. One thing we know is going on in households is the struggle to adapt to the new normal and cope with what is happening, especially in light of our children and teenagers. We have reached out to 3 of our own members that are well educated in the area of counseling, and we are excited to hear from them today.
Hey everybody, I'm John Sweeney and I'm the Director of Stewardship Development at Vestavia Hills United Methodist, and I'm going to be kind of guiding us through this time together. We're really excited to have Jill Kimbrough, who is a psychiatrist with Wellsprings Christian Counseling. Jill, it's great to have you. We also have Ellery Berryhill with us, who is a licensed professional counselor and is in private practice in the Hoover area. And we also have with us George Casey, who is the CEO of Impact Family Counseling. You may recognize a lot of these folks. They are church members here at Vestavia Hills United Methodist, and we are thrilled to have you as a part of this and sharing of some of your time and insights into the lives that, as Emily referenced, the new normal that our teenagers and college-age kids are dealing with. And so, Jill, we've all spoken together previously, and I wanted to start with you, Jill, if you wouldn't mind kind of sharing with us some thoughts about what you're seeing as a parent, but also what you're experiencing as a psychiatrist and some of the medical background as to what's going on.
Sure. Thank you so much. So what I would say is that, first of all, being in the house with teenagers and college kids more than we normally are, you may be more aware of what's going on with them and watching their moods and other things as they change across the course of the days. I would say, first of all, that there's a lot of normal variation in teenager moods, and that just is because of where they are developmentally, both physically and emotionally, and their ability to cope with stress and to self-soothe. Those are things that we develop over time. And so they don't have as many skills developed yet to do that. So there's a wide range of normal. One thing that I would say, if you're concerned about your teenager's mood, that there are really kind of two things going on. First of all, most of them are going through a grief episode. So many of them have had great loss about this, of things that they were counting on, things that they've been training for and preparing for so long that are now just over. And so many of them are going through grief, which is a normal process. The things that we would be most concerned about is depression. Those things are sometimes hard to discern between grief and depression. But what I would say about grief is it tends to come in waves. So kids and teenagers, they will have some real strong emotions at times, and then other times they will look perfectly fine and they'll be able to laugh and enjoy themselves, and it'll come in waves. Depression, by definition, is more stable and constant. There can be some mood variation in that, but if you are concerned, if you see your teenager whose mood is down and stays down for most of the day, for many days on end, and then they have changes in their behavior, isolating from people, changes in sleep and appetite, their ability to engage. If you see that go on for days and you're concerned about their mood and you have if they speak words about hopelessness or other things, that might be a place where they need attention. And my recommendation there is to, first of all, if you have any concerns, contact their pediatrician, their primary care doctor. That is who their healthcare provider is, and they are very good at triaging mental health and kind of deciding where to go from there. That's what I would say.
Excellent. Thank you, Jill. Appreciate those thoughts. And you bring up an important concept of grief, and having heard, having a high school student myself, and the disappointments that they're experiencing. Ellery, you talked a little bit about grief, and I know you also have a high school senior who's probably dealing with a lot of those emotions as well. Can you talk a little bit about not only grief, but also some of the boundaries that we look to as families to kind of maybe establish new boundaries in this kind of new normal.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, John, for letting me be part of this process. And you're right. New boundaries are part of the name of the game when we're all confined to a space that we're probably most of us used to leaving and then regrouping together again at night. And now we're around the same faces 24/7. And that can feel exhausting in a whole new fatiguing kind of way. So as we get adjusted to this new change, especially with our teenagers, they're trying to establish all new boundaries. The ways they were doing it before, if they were in a healthy developmental cycle, was that they were separating from us as parents and family members and moving more towards their peer group. That is a healthy developmental process. And now we've said, no, you can't do that anymore right now during this period of time. So that is a big part of the grief process that they're experiencing is, well, now what do I do? How do I interact? Yes, we have technology, and the beauty of all of these things, even the thing we're doing now, does allow us to connect still, but it's not the same thing for a lot of us, and it's not the same thing for our teens. And so they're grieving those losses as well as all of these milestones and end of the year significant moments that my child and other children are all experiencing the loss of. The other thing about boundaries is that when we as parents get all this time back with these creatures that have wanted to leave us now for several years, right? Then there sometimes becomes this overwhelming urge to create this really momentous, special family dynamic, especially if you're seeing that on other people's social media pages or you feel the pressure to have this interaction that is super special during this time. And I've seen a lot of people want to spin it and say, well, this is great. This is an opportunity that God is giving us to slow down, to reconnect. All of that may be true, but it's also okay to honor the space that is the grief that Jill talked about, that is part of what our teens are losing, because they don't have anywhere else to put that. So we want to sort of ride that wave with them, so to speak. So if they want to disconnect and they don't want to participate in family puzzle night because they've done it for 3 nights in a row and they can't do it anymore, allow that. You know, it's okay to just allow them space and time to reconnect as they can through technology with their friends, to be a safe space for them as a sounding board to say, I hate this stinks, I don't like it. My own teen, even yesterday, sent me a text that said, this is so surreal. So am I graduated now? Because he got the notice that he was effectively done with schoolwork as a senior in good standing at the end of 9 weeks. So that's confusing. It's confusing for me as a parent. It's certainly confusing for him. So to be honest with them about our own confusion in this time, but to also just be a receptive place for them to place some of those emotions, because they're going to be big and it's okay if they're not all positive. So boundary wise, allowing them that space and then allowing them to ride, allowing yourself to sort of ride that wave with them and not expecting it to be this perfect transition into this new normal that we're experiencing.
Yeah. Thank you, Ellery. That's helpful. Absolutely. George, you have been a part of these conversations that we've been having as well, and you shared recently some kind of almost checklists or bullet points that have been helpful to you and your family, but also to the patients and clients that you work with at Impact. Do you mind sharing some of those thoughts with us as we look at helping our families kind of exist in this new normal?
Sure. Yeah. Thanks for including me. One of the things that I keep hearing over and over again from different families and people is that there's a lot of stress and anxiety in the house that kind of goes along with the grief that Jill talked about and depression. So what do you do with that stress and anxiety? I think it's helpful for people to kind of have some bullet point ideas or some actual practical tips that one can do to try to help and deal with that stress and anxiety. So One of the first things I tell folks is to turn off the 24-hour news cycle. One of the things that I'm hearing about over and over and over again is they want to stay informed, they want to be updated on the latest information, but yet they're being inundated with morbid, difficult things that are constantly coming across the news waves. And so maybe just to stay in tune with things, maybe set some time. So, as Ellery just mentioned a minute ago about boundaries, set some boundaries so that you might listen to the news maybe once in the morning or once in the evening, that kind of thing. Maybe turn the TV off from that respect. Other things I like to do is have folks plan schedules that go along with that. So, if you have in your schedule 1 hour set aside to listen to the news, have another hour set aside for exercise, and maybe have another hour set aside for cooking and that kind of thing. And I'm not asking folks to sit there and be rigid, but when you're at home all day, all 24/7, sometimes your schedule is just kind of wide open. And so being able to provide some structure and some boundaries to your schedule for the day is good. I think it's great if you can get out of those pajamas that sometimes I'm hearing people are staying in for 3 and 4 days at a time. So, take your personal hygiene seriously. Go ahead and shower and shave and, change those clothes that you might be happening to stay into for a while. When you're talking to other family members, it's okay to validate feelings and let people know this is kind of a scary time in our lives. This is a kind of a situation where we're all a little uncomfortable, and that's okay. But if we try to reach out and do some things like maybe listen to some of our favorite music, you've got some AirPods on, John, you throw in some AirPods or some headphones, that kind of thing, and listen to some of your favorite music. That's a great way to kind of come down from some of the stress times that you're experiencing. Reading a good book. There's a lot of different things that you can do, ways to practice kindness. I know there's a great need right now in the community for community volunteers. I know we don't want to be out and about, but there are ways to volunteer that doesn't always require transportation. Sometimes, as right now, we're being asked to maybe go out and deliver meals for Meals on Wheels. They have a great need right now, and that's just volunteer work. You don't have to actually have to have exposure to people to be able to do that. Sometimes it's just picking up the phone and calling people and just saying, hey, there are a lot of organizations out there that need callers to call members of the community just to check on them and let them know that they're loved and cared for. So volunteering of your time is something that I think has really been helpful for a lot of people that I've talked to help them. When you reach out and help someone, it doesn't just help the person receiving, it's the giver that also gains so much from that experience. And so I found that to be very helpful. Other things that you can do, just take charge of your schedule in terms of saying, hey, look, right now I want to reach out and have a FaceTime call with 4 or 5 of my friends. That's something that we don't typically do, but in this world, it's kind of a way to connect. We all love relationships. We all want to be in relationships. So connecting in those relationships is a really important thing to do. And I personally, I have 2 teenagers that are at home right now from college, and I have a teenager that's still in high school. And we got on a group FaceTime with all of their friends and my wife and I, and we were enjoying it on the call. And it was so much fun talking to everybody for about an hour. And we all got a lot out of it. So that's that connected part of relationships that we all want to do. So stay engaged and keep involved so that you've got that kind of going on in your life.
Those are really helpful, practical applications, George, that I think families can grab a hold of in different ways. And obviously, I think we've been on long enough. George's light turned off, so
sorry about that.
I know it's perfectly great. I just wanted to thank you again for your time and your commitment to our church family, but also know for those of you that have watched this, if you have further questions that you want some help with, there's an email address in the text above, but it's also Emily Bowles' email, which is ebowles@vhumc.org, and we'll make sure that that's visible in this post as well. But thank you all for joining us, and thank you for being a part of this time together. And hopefully we'll we're certainly going to get through this, but we may get back in touch with you as those questions and needs come up from our community, as we're liking to say, adjusting to this new normal. So again, thank you all. Stay safe and enjoy wherever it is that you are. So I appreciate each of you. Thanks so much.
Thank you, John.